It's the real Billy Ray Valentine checking in with you today. Checking in with you today. Like, share, and subscribe to the channel, The Real Billy Ray Valentine on YouTube. Follow us on TikTok, on Instagram, Facebook, The Real Billy Ray Valentine Luxury Tax Group. I have one of today's topics. One of today's topics will be itemized deductions. And I believe, once again, that we're leaving a lot of money on the table because we don't really understand what type of deductions that we can actually itemize when it comes down to tax season. We have to, every tax return that's done is telling a story. Every tax return that is done is telling a story. On this channel, we like to talk about real things in real time with real people and real tax returns. So some of this stuff I may say today might hit home. Some of you probably already know about, but we want to address the itemized deduction Schedule A, Form Schedule A from the department that's attached to your 1040. If we were to start at the top of the Schedule A, just off the top of my head, we start at the top of the Schedule A. The top of the Schedule A was going to have medical miles. It's going to have long-term care premiums. It's going to have medical expenses. Now, those medical expenses that you would decide to itemize would actually have to be have to exceed 7.5% of your adjusted gross income. So medical expenses have to exceed 7.5% of your adjusted gross income for it to actually count. And then there are other factors that will take your tax return from a standard deduction to an itemized deduction. So some of the medical expenses, real life medical expenses, we're not writing off on our tax returns. Some of us are getting up in age now where we're taking on our parents into our homes, and we're taking care of the home. We're taking care of our parents. We have respite care. We have medical miles because we're going back and forth to the doctor. Sometimes it's maybe a county away. We're not, if your tax preparer is not asking those particular questions, then you're losing out on a possible deduction that may decrease your tax liability. In the finance world, which is the world that I came from prior to being a 1040 guy, I was a stock jock. In the finance world, there's a rule that we call know your customer rule. So anytime somebody comes and sit in front of me for a real tax return, I get all up in their business because I'm trying to find a way to reduce their tax liability, and I'm trying to tell their story. Every story is an original situation. So back to the medical expenses. For instance, we may have to refurbish a room or renovate a room in the house. We may have to add a ramp, a handicap ramp. I may have to get a walker for your father or your mother. You may have to have some type of bars that they have to hold on to get in the bathtub. All of those things are medical expenses, and they can be written off on your tax return, unbeknownst to you. You're spending all of this money, and you're not, speaking with your tax preparer because they don't know you. They come in front of you, sit in front of them, you give them a piece of paper, and then they're going to try to get you the best tax return that they can based on the information that you provided. Well, what would happen if you came with the entire list of expenses that you believe could be written off? It's not up to you to determine whether they're written off. That's for the professional to determine. But at the very least, you can compile a list or a spreadsheet of all of the things that you think that you spent money on the medical prescriptions. Your doctors prescribe you to be, lower cholesterol and lower sodium diet, those type of things, alternative medicines, vitamins, minerals, organic food, all of those type of things that you might need to put a list on. And it's possible that it could be written off. Maybe it's not, but at least you know where your money's going. From a financial standpoint, now you can actually say, oh, I'm spending here and I'm spending there. I might be able to pull back while I am getting this documentation ready for my tax preparer. So if we continue to go down the list, then we will see state and local taxes, which is the SALT. Everybody's talking about SALT with this new administration. So SALT is coming to a play because it's capped at $10,000 right now. So if you were paying a substantial amount of money in your property taxes for your home, and if you happen to buy a new vehicle or a couple of new vehicles, you're paying tax tag and title. You're paying ad valorem for those particular vehicles. You can write that off. You're paying 7.5% sales tax on a vehicle. That is a expense that needs to go on your tax return. But if you don't tell your tax preparer that, they don't know. They might have thought you may have called an Uber to the office. They don't know that you got the big body sitting outside and you just paid $70,000 for it at the retail price, and $4,900 of that, or a little bit more, $5,600 of that is sales tax. You just left it on the table. You didn't even let your tax preparer know, and then you want to, you're putting yourself at a disadvantage. So state, local, and sometimes municipality taxes in some states. You have to make sure that you get your documents together and you put those type of things down. Mortgage interest. If you just bought a new home, make sure that you provide your tax preparer with at least the first 2 pages of your HUD-1 or settlement statement for those homes. If you sold a home, you need to provide that as well. Gambling losses go on an itemized deduction worksheet. The gambling losses can only go up to the amount that you made. So if you won $5,000, you could very well write off $49.95 and only be taxed on $5 as opposed to being taxed on the entire $5,000 as capital gain. But you make sure that you have to have your documentation in place. Some of the Harrah's, MGM Grand, some of the big boys, they will give you a sheet that shows how much you've lost with them over a period of time. If you have those cards, those player cards that you have, if you continue to put those player cards in the machines that you play, you'll be able to get a printout of how much you actually lost. So, these are the things that we have to take account of and pay attention to when we're doing the tax return. A Schedule 8 is a very lengthy schedule, and if used properly, it will actually be able to reduce your tax liability. I know I've kind of run on a little bit, but I just want to make sure that everybody keeps that in mind. So your medical, your property tax, your personal property taxes, your mortgage interest, your charitable contributions. The department doesn't frown upon the fact that you may have charitable contributions. Sometimes it might exceed 10% of your AGI. You don't want to go too high. But once again, every tax return is a story. You're telling the story about your situation. Everybody's situation is different. So you may have a substantial amount of charitable contributions. You may not have any at all. But if you have a child going off to college, you just move them out, and now you've cleaned up their room and you make that room your office. Well, the things that you gave away to Goodwill and Salvation Army and American Kidney Service or whoever else is coming by and picking up, you need to write that off. Document it. Documentation beats it all every time. So if you're documenting this information, you have a spreadsheet, or if you just want to write it down and make sure you make copies of it, or keep the receipts, or get a scanner and scan your receipts, all of that is going to help you reduce your tax liability and possibly increase your refund if you're entitled to one. So I just wanted to stop by and let you guys know that, give you 10 minutes of my time today. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe to the channel. Be on the lookout for my book coming out, Life and Times of the Real Billy Ray Valentine. I am out of the office for the day, but I'm in for the rest of the week. Peace.